welcome back, guys. We got a fun episode today. One that's probably going to generate a lot of negative comments toward us, because you probably won't be able to agree with hardly anything we say today. We're doing a Mount Rushmore on the wide receivers. We've already done one on the quarterbacks and running backs, and they're fun to do. But we could not agree hardly on anything on this episode.
Yeah.
The one thing we did agree on, and we'll just jump into him right immediately, Carl Pickens.
Excellent wide receiver, Tim. I mean, he was my number one guy. You know, when I was sitting here thinking, if it's 3rd and 7, games on the line, we're going to play for a national championship, who am I throwing the ball to? And it would be Carl Pickens. I mean, the guy had some dog in him, a great athlete, could have been an All-American defensive back if he had stayed at that defensive back. Had a heck of an NFL career. Just a great wide receiver.
He was. As you mentioned, his freshman year, they stuck him over on defense because their defense was so bad. 4 games, 4 interceptions, all conference as a DB. The only thing that could stop Carl sometimes was his mouth.
Yeah.
The infamous dude with the tood article in Sports Illustrated. He wasn't a big fan of Keepy Brown, who's one of the best assistants we ever had on the Hill. And like you said, Bob, I generally tried not to worry about what NFL people do there.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to limit it, what they've done at UT. But, this was just more to show what he could do even after he went to the next level. He was an outstanding wide receiver in the pros.
Yeah.
But as far as, UT, I can remember maybe his freshman year before Del Carter got there. But Johnny had said that Carl was the best pure athlete he had seen since Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
And that covered a lot of outstanding athletes that come across Tennessee. Anybody remember Willie Gault? I mean, there was
a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just named 2 way up there guys on the best athletes we ever had down there, Carl Pickens and Del Carter. I mean, we could probably even do a Mount Rushmore of best athletes to ever play down there, because that one.
And they're probably going to be honest.
Yeah, that wouldn't be difficult. But Pickens was fantastic. Before we get into the rest of our list, remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and hit that notification bell, because you really don't see these videos unless you hit that notification bell as well. But yeah, man, I tell you what, this list was incredibly hard to do. This will be the most controversial list we do. One of our criteria is we kind of had to see them. And man, I tell you what.
And that leaves off 3 of the greatest probably we ever had down there.
Probably did. I mean.
And I think 3 are probably more than 3, but.
Yeah.
Larry Sievers. People just a little older than me will swear by him.
Mm-hmm.
Never got to see him play, though. Richmond Flyers. And honestly, I saw Stanley Morgan in the pros. Didn't see him at UT.
Right.
And he played more running back.
Right.
Otherwise, I can't see leaving Stanley off any list.
Yeah.
But that's kind of our criteria, Bob. We got to have seen him play.
Yeah. And I tell you what, this list, man, was so hard. We normally agree. If it's anything UT related, we're normally in agreement on that. This list, we was way different. And honestly, my list, if I do this list again 2 weeks, I might change a couple of guys. That's how hard it was to make this list. I mean, it was hard.
Well, it was. And we're like I said, we probably going to leave off a couple of guys, well, more than a couple.
Yeah.
That most people wouldn't. But
so feel free to, in the comment section, to tell us who your top 4 was, because I guarantee we left a couple of guys off. But all right, Tim, let's start off with your list.
Okay. I don't generally put as much emphasis on championships for individual players.
Right.
But if it's a tie, then yeah, I'll give it to them, or if they had something special to do with it. So for me, A guy that's making my list, um, and it's not number two necessarily, but as a Peerless Price. Um, I don't think we win that national championship in '98 without him. He bailed out um, the Vols many times when we were just not passing the ball very well, and it was just jump ball, go get it, and
Yeah.
you couldn't stop it.
Yeah. I mean, he's a special player for a special season. Had a heck of an NFL career. Uh, I mean, Price.
He was
Like,
Peerless.
yeah. I mean, like you said, if you're looking for a deep ball, it might be Price because he seemed like he would always get open when he needed to get open.
He'd go bring it down,
Yeah.
and it was such key plays at key moments
Yeah.
of games that kept that season marching along. Um, that's why he broke the tie for a couple other people that made my list.
Uh, Not my number two guy, just one of the guys on my list. But the second guy I'm going to talk about is Tim McGee. Uh, that's about the time I started watching Tennessee football. I started watching in '83, went from being a fan to a fanatic in '85. And that's about the time this guy burst on the scene was Tim McGee. Uh, Two-time All-SEC, first-team All-American. Uh, he set the record for Tennessee at receiving yards, but, since been broken, obviously, different offenses, different errors type stuff. But, man, I tell you what, McGee, it seemed like, you know, if the ball was thrown, he was going to come down with it. I mean, he was just, he would distort his body to make catches. Went on to have a pretty good NFL career, too, with the Bengals.
He did, and it is hard to separate sometimes those first players that you fell in love with,
Yeah.
particularly when they're on a beloved team like the
Right.
'85 Sugar Vols.
Yeah.
For me, my first beloved guy was Anthony Hancock, pretended to be him.
Mhm.
He didn't make my list, but um, had he played in a different era with the different quarterbacks, he very well may have. This is a position so dependent on quarterback play and offensive system.
Right.
That's why I kind of threw out the record books for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
And because my number two guy, to be honest about it, when you start going down the list of, who had the most yards at Tennessee, you get to 20 and you keep going. You get to 40, you keep going. You get to 60, you keep going.
You trying to make your argument here? Or
No,
not?
I'm kind of making an argument of like, the situations sometimes do it. I mean, can I say he had a top four career at Tennessee? Obviously not. Does he make my top four wide receivers? Absolutely does, and that is Anthony Miller. Seemed like a forgotten Vol, but he was there in the late '80s. He was a guy that, we got out of junior college, Pasadena City College, I believe it was, because he had not played football until his senior season. He was a track star, and actually went to a track scholarship first to San Diego State, where he left after a year because they wouldn't let him play football too. He probably realized at that point that's where his career was going to be. And, we picked him up. He burst onto the scene, had a big junior season for us. Myself, we just went through Tim McGee and some of these other guys, and I thought, man, we got somebody here as good or better, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, Miller was fantastic.
And then, he goes on the NFL, five-time Pro Bowler, about 10,000 receiving yards at that time, and had 3 knee surgeries, I think, operated on in the pros, and kept playing at a high level, which, you think this guy, he was a speedster, and you think the knee injury would kill you, take that little something away from you, but he was just more than a speedster. And really, that's one of the big reasons he didn't have more bigger impact at UT and more memorable is because he got hurt his first game of his senior season against Iowa.
Yeah.
The knee again, or for the first time, maybe the knee. And he played in like 5 games, but was a shell of himself.
Yeah, he's one that should have had a lot better career here. Um, man,
Inopportune time for that knee injury.
right, it was. Um, my next guy, Tim, he's kind of like Pickens in that if the game's on the line, if we got a long third down play, and we know the teams knows it's going to this guy. I'm throwing it to them anyway. It's Robert Meachem. Uh, the guy. I mean, his junior year uh, had 71 catches for right at 1,300 yards, All American. He actually led the team in a backup role his sophomore year in catches and yards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was on that thing. Yes, he was a backup, but it's simply because the two guys he came in with, he got hurt his freshman season
Right. I
and
think it had a
missed
lot to do
time,
with it. Yeah.
and they got the opportunity to grab those starting jobs. And a lot of times coaches won't move a starter out of the way,
Yeah, I mean,
regardless.
there wasn't
And
bad players either.
oh, Brett
Jason
Swain, Brett Smith and Jason Swain.
Yeah. I mean, two good wide receivers. And then I think you had Lucas Taylor, I think, also
On that team at some point.
But and that's also a time when Meachem had his big year was when Cutcliffe come in,
Kind of fixed Eric Ainge.
big search change. That's why these lists are so hard, man. Who's the quarterback at the time? Who's the coordinator at the time? What era is it? It's so hard to make this list, and that's why it'll be interesting to see other people's viewpoints on these guys. But me,
I mean, it's a big difference between catching passes from Jeff Francis or Peyton Manning.
yeah,
I mean,
it's a big difference. Yeah,
Sterling Kenton or Tony Robson.
right.
Yeah, it matters.
It matters. Yeah. Who's your next guy, Tim?
Well, Bob, I'll tell you what, I had to go with a guy who's not going to be known for his speed
Mm-hmm.
at the university that is
They're actually kind of slow, actually.
Yes. And I've heard so many players talk about giving it their all, giving them 100%. Well, they're not.
Yeah.
But one guy that might be, uh, he's on my team if I'm playing tiddlywinks or needing somebody to help me in a fight in a back alley because he's a dog, and that is Jauan Jennings.
Yeah. Heck of a player, Tim, and the ultimate competitor. Probably the best blocking wide receiver, maybe all time. I mean, the guy is that good.
Well, I remember that time he decleated the Georgia All-American. I think it was Trenton Thompson, defensive tackle.
I remember.
He's chasing the guy down the field. Thompson's got a head of speed up, going as fast as he can, and it wasn't a blindside thing. Jauan just comes straight
Who
up.
who does that? What other
no
wide
wide receiver even attempts that.
Yeah, what other wide receiver attempts that? Number one.
And I'm sure
What other wide receiver
can do it.
Can do it?
Well, you know what? I am sure that Thompson thought, well, what's this guy come running at me for?
Right.
I'm just going to run right through him like a locomotive.
Yeah.
And it turned out he was the one off the rails because he got knocked off. It was comical, man. It was awesome. But
and Jennings also part of one of the most
iconic
plays of all time. I mean, who can ever forget the Hail Mary play with Josh Dobbs? And
that Dobbs
that game went back, forth. I mean, if you ever just want to spend 5 minutes of your life, just go watch the telling of that game. That was something else.
Oh, it was wonderful. And Jennings, he played every game like it's his last. He still does to this day. He's getting every ounce of talent out of his body. And everybody from coaching staff, other team members, has to respect what he does out on the field. Because he's not the most talented guy.
No.
But I wouldn't take him in a heartbeat because I know he's going to give everything he has.
Well, I mentioned, who would I want to throw the ball to if it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, would it be Pickens, Meachem, whatever. But man, I tell you what, I don't know if I'm going to throw it to him or not, and I might. But I want Jauan Jennings on my team. And he's the guy I want on my team. Because he makes you a winner. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
But Well, my next guy on the list, man, it was so hard, man, this list was. But I just couldn't leave off the one guy who won the Blitnikoff Award. I mean, we had so many guys probably come close to winning it, but nobody ever did. So I had to go with Jalin Hyatt. I mean, the guy had the greatest game of all time for a wide receiver at UT, of any wide receiver possibly, on the stage playing against the Satan Crimson Tide, uh, 5 touchdowns. I'll never forget uh, that image in my head that's actually on our intro of that 4th touchdown when the Bama guy's like on his knees and Jalin Hyatt's going for the touchdown. He just looks at him and then just
He just drops his head.
drops his head.
He's thinking probably, are they going to make me walk back to Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, he's like, man, I've tried to stop this guy all game and I've not been able to do it. I mean, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, Hyatt had potentially, I mean, obviously, he had the greatest year nationally as far as a UT wide receiver,
Mhm.
as far as accolades.
Yeah.
Although you could see, Robert Meachem's last season was almost identical.
Yeah.
Uh,
Very similar.
the numbers were almost the same, but he never had those iconic moments, and it wasn't on a team that really
Yeah.
is going to be remembered as one of the uh, most beloved teams.
Right.
But man, the number of guys that we had to leave off.
So many. I mean, this list was so hard to put together, man, because I was sitting here looking. I was like, oh, well, how did I leave this guy off?
Well, right off the bat, 2 guys that led the top 2 guys that ever played down there as far as yards go, Joey Kent and Marcus Nash, no war on our list. Your Cordero Patterson would be on our own athlete thing, but I mean, obviously didn't make a list on that. You had people like Cedric Wilson, um, Alvin Harper.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
Willie, how do you leave Willie Gault off of anything?
Yeah. Yeah, so many, so many. I mean, like was Kent and again Nash. They got to play with Peyton Manning, so they was really good wide receivers. I just didn't put them on my list because I felt like they wouldn't have been on that list had they had to play with, you know, Hurricanes or whoever.
Well, senior Hurricanes, they might.
But junior, yeah, right. But yeah, I just felt like they got the benefit of playing with the GOAT, the greatest quarterback of all time, Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and that, like I said, this is a position that is really dependent upon the time frame, the team philosophy, the offense you're running, the coaching staff, and primarily the quarterback throwing it to you.
Yeah.
And that's why some people, are not going. They're down the list a little bit, and others that were notable. And there's a couple other guys I like to mention. Bob, early 2010s, you had Rick Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed like sometimes the only person that could stop him was himself.
Yeah.
You had Justin Hunter. If he don't get hurt, he would definitely be way up higher on my list. A deep threat that could go jump over you and grab whatever you wanted. He'd moss you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And the list went on and on. I could name 20 guys.
Oh yeah, and you could probably make a case for probably, no joke, you could probably make a case for a dozen guys to be on this list. That's how hard it was to make it. But yeah, again, guys, make sure you say what you think, because I'd love to hear who you had on there.
Yeah. And when you tell us we're dumb and don't know what we was talking about, mention is mostly him.
Right.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, guys, to like, subscribe, comment, as we said, and hit that notification bell. We'll have more of these coming out. This one's going to be the hardest one, though, I do believe. But let us know what you think. Go Vols.
Go Big Orange.